Okay, so like I said, I'm Leah Zimmer. I'm the director. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to do their um, Notre Dame introduction, which all of you will become very familiar with. And that is going to be your major, your hall, where you're from, and there may be a few other details in this case. But Erica, let's go ahead and start with you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Erica Lee. I'm a junior majoring in economics and Chinese. I'm also minoring in science, technology, and values. I live in Lewis Hall. I have lived in Lewis Hall, and I'm from Seoul, South Korea.
Kaylee, how about you go next?
Yeah, I go next. Thanks, Leah. Hi, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're located at. I'm Kaylee Liao. I'm a sophomore majoring in econ and German. And I live in Pascagoula East Hall. What else, Leah? Oh, I'm from Chengdu, China. Yeah, and great to have you all. Excited to share more.
And Dawson.
Hello, I'm Dawson Young. I'm a sophomore math major. I live in Siegfried Hall on campus, and I'm from Shanghai, China.
Very good. Thanks, you guys. We're super excited to have you guys here. You may have already heard from one of these students, but you should have heard from your international ambassador last week. And these students are really just committed to helping you get to campus, get settled. You will find everyone on campus incredibly helpful. But we know that students have always appreciated just having one or two people to reach out to and say, I have no idea where I'm supposed to be or what's next or where to go. And the international ambassadors are a really great resource. Arav, I know you emailed about making sure we connect you with your international ambassador. And so we're on it. We're working on that. You'll get that email. So to our panel, I just want you to think back to your first couple of weeks on campus. What was surprising to you about campus, about your residence hall, about the US, or what was something that just didn't make sense when you got here that you had to adjust to? Go ahead,
So
Erica.
I can go ahead and like kind of jump in here a little bit. So thinking back to like orientation and like the first few weeks on campus, it was quite busy. I would say it was a busy time because like everyone's trying to get to know everyone else and like especially for the freshman class. And no matter where you go, like you're always just trying to like kind of start a small talk with kind of like a random person you met on campus and kind of try and make friends. So it could be intimidating at the first because like for people who are like introverts, for people who are not like used to kind of introducing themselves and like small talking with the others, it can be quite intimidating. But I think it's also like a fun part of like being a freshman in college and like not knowing everyone and starting like a new chapter in your life. Um, for me, I'm outgoing and like extrovert, so like it was really exciting to meet so many people at the same time. But like a bummer could be like sometimes you just forget, the person just met yesterday's name, and it can be quite embarrassing. So a lot of people, a lot of social networking, like just depending on how you adjust. I would say the best piece of advice I would give is just to kind of enjoy yourself and put yourself out there. Don't be shy and try to establish as many connections as possible because going forward, like during freshman year, you can't imagine like, in some scenarios you just keep bumping into people that you met during orientation or like at the very beginning of the year. So like keeping those connections are definitely very helpful. Yeah, that's my advice for me. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Erica, you look ready.
Yep, I'm ready now. Okay, so I live in Lewis Hall. It's not the oldest dorm in the oldest like residence hall on campus, but it's one of the older domes. Rather than having like new fancy like in the mod quad. So I was really surprised that Lewis Hall didn't have any AC. Which is okay, which is fine, but I was really shocked because especially in 2018 summer, it was really super hot and humid. But there are a lot of people who already live there and they're still living, and they have like your RAs and your like other hallmates have great advice if you don't get anything about your hall and then like you don't know how to live here, like there will be some point that like how does this work? Like you ask yourself like how does this work? Then you can always go to your upperclassmen in the hall or RAs because they will have a great advice and they're really like have like all of these like life hacks that you can go around with. And also I think it's more timely to this semester. um I it's it can be really cold and snowy in South Bend, especially in winter, during January and February. And for me, I wear umbrellas. I bring umbrellas if it's snowing a lot because I think it's just the rain because you don't want to get your hairs and your jackets wet. But nobody else except for me gets what like why are you like wearing umbrella when it's snowing? Nobody else gets it. Um, but I still don't get it, like why you would not wear umbrella because still like water, it's still rain, and you don't want to get your hairs wet. But yeah, those are the things that it was like, kind of strange in the first few weeks of each semester.
I like that permission to do whatever you need to do to survive the winter. So everyone is going to have a different strategy. Some people wear 3 or 4 layers of clothes. Some people just don't go outside at all. Other people are like, I'm just going to commit to the cold. But the umbrella is definitely a new strategy for dealing with the cold and the snow. So it's whatever it takes for you. That's a good idea. Dawson, did you have anything from your first couple of weeks on campus that was surprising that you had to adjust to or something that didn't make sense?
Yeah, I did think about my first few weeks, and I thought about many cultural conflicts that I encountered in the dorms, especially in Siegfried, since I've never lived in the States before coming to Notre Dame. So it's quite understandable there are cultural conflicts.
Yes.
And one of the things I like talking about is we have a few American kids who like to bring loudspeakers and play music while they are taking the shower. I still don't understand why they do that, but it's an interesting thing. And yeah, so my suggestion is just keep an open mind. And if you see something you don't understand, just ask about it, and you are going to be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's true. Even for students who have maybe spent a lot of time in the US, if you haven't lived in the US or haven't lived in a dorm environment, that is going to still be an adjustment. Even if you feel very comfortable in the US, you've traveled here a lot. That's good advice. I'm curious, Dawson, your answer kind of answers this too, but in your first couple of weeks, what is something that it would have been very helpful to know that you learned much later? So you've been here 3 or 4 months, you learned something, you're like, oh, I wish I had known that in my first or second week of being on campus.
I actually wished I was more familiar with the Notre Dame introduction scene because I meet all these people, and every time I need to think about how should I introduce myself, what should I say. So, and I was not very fluent with English at that time, so that causes a lot of trouble for me. So my suggestion is maybe try memorize the Notre Dame introduction. That's gonna help a lot, especially when you start meeting new people.
Yeah. So that's your year, your major, where you're from, and the hall that you live in are the 4 things. You can just practice a little bit. You're going to have a lot of practice in the first couple of days, but that's really great advice, Dawson. Kaylee or Erica?
Oh, yeah, I can go first. I think there's something that I wish I knew in the first few weeks while I'm introducing and meeting new people is that you don't have to be afraid of admitting that you don't know any slangs or any like terms or any culture, American culture. Because even for like domestic student who lived in US, like who was born and raised in US, the US is really big, so people from New York and California might have a completely different experience. So something that California people would know and it's natural for them will be not for people from Ohio or like Pennsylvania or like any other like any other states or like different regions. So I have a friend from many different like all across the country, and they use different slangs, and sometimes even like within them they don't understand each other. So it's okay to like pause in the middle, like, hey, what does it mean? Like to ask people, hey, what does it mean? It would not be too disadvantageous or it would not be too awkward.
That's really great advice. Kaylee, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I would say my best piece of advice is to join the like as many group me chats as possible because like sometimes we have like this like secret group me's where they kind of sell stuff and like sell the whether it's textbooks or like furnitures they like the seniors kind of pass on to juniors or like lower class. Like you can get it at a really cheap price. So like I would just say like join those kind of selling group chat like group me's and you can get discounts and like really good stuff and yeah, that's my first advice there. Second advice, kind of just try to hang out with more upperclassmen, like if that makes sense. Even though it's natural to kind of immerse yourself around other freshman people when you first arrive on campus is and I don't know if it's the same case for you guys, but for me, my like my dorm like so like the room I lived in, I was surrounded by like other freshmen, people in my section. So like kind of like thinking back the first like semester when I arrived on Notre Dame, I just hang out with the freshman group in my section, like not anyone else, sort of. We just go together, like we go to watch football games together, we eat together, we hang out together. But I think it just would be more helpful to know more upperclassmen in the dorm and just kind of, like IAs who are upperclassmen, because like they definitely know much more life lessons and how to survive Notre Dame and like survive the first midterm and like how to drop classes. It's definitely interesting to get another perspective from upperclassmen. And like, please just do not stick in your freshman group and kind of try to jump out of your comfort zone when you meet new people, and especially upperclassmen. They can be really, really great help and connections for you moving forward.
That's great advice. Some of you may have participated in the Engage in D programming in the fall. And so you might have met a senior hall fellow that lives in these dorms. So you've got an upperclassman connection. Absolutely keep reaching out to them. And I know a number of our IAs last fall said it was a little bit more difficult to make those connections because of the masks and people needing to isolate. And it just set a slightly different tone. But they said they did appreciate when the freshmen reached out and asked questions, and it gave them an opportunity to be useful and to share their experience, even though the masks maybe made that initial connection a little bit more difficult. I'm curious if you guys had any specific things that you noticed about how Americans or Midwesterners interact in the US. I know one thing I hear a lot is how much small talk there is with people who are from the Midwest, and talking about the weather is almost a constant. And we talked about it at the very beginning of this call. That's unusual for a lot of students who come. And I'm curious if you guys have any other experiences about watching Midwesterners or American students interact that you found surprising or interesting.
One thing, it might not always like limited to the Notre Dame community, but before I come to Notre Dame, before the school starts, I was traveling around like the US, and I went to New York, and they're very fast paces. I love the city, but they're like people are very fast paces and talk really fast. Sometimes they talk really fast, and if you're a foreigner and then it's like first time actually living or actually like interacting with a lot of native English speaker, you might be intimidated. And that was like fast paced speaking, and maybe like sometimes like yelling like loud like voices because of like the city itself. It sometimes intimidated me. And then the first thing I noticed when I was traveling Chicago was people were smiling at me. People just like would smile at random people. If you have eye contact with random stranger and walking down the street, they will smile at you. So there are some different characteristics between people, even though it's not like set in stone. But generally I found Midwestern, like Chicago, like a city itself, is more gentle, I guess, or more like less tense, I guess.
I would absolutely echo that, Erica. I think most of my friends, strangely speaking, I did not like do that intention, but like almost most of them like come from Midwest, and they're just really nice, really friendly people, and they they like joking around with each other. So like kind of back to your question, Leah, the way like how like they interact with each other, that kind of surprised me is like how they like constantly kind of just joke about each other's hometown and like, oh, so for example, for Michigan, they're like, oh, you're just from like a village and like there's nothing there. You're like from middle of nowhere, something like that. Um, and that's sometimes true, right? Like some of them do live in the middle of nowhere, and like all that's surrounding them is kind of sometimes cornfields or like villages or like farms. But it's also kind of fun to hear them talk about, their farms, like how, they're like they grew up like doing agricultural stuff and like growing different stuff in their yard. It's really fun to hear. Um, and I would say the advice here, I would say kind of interacting with Midwestern people is just to be yourself. Like everyone's so chill and like don't be shy. Like if you don't get something like that's cultural, you think, just like ask them. Just like, okay, like I found that really interesting. Why don't you share more? Like just say something like that and they will be really glad to share with you. And I think they're really open-minded, surprisingly open-minded, and um they will not like judge you based on where you're from or anything. I think they actually found foreigners quite interesting and to be friends with. That's why I think like I have that many like so many like Midwestern like American friends. So yeah.
That's fun. It is. It's a whole, I think the Midwest is also feels a little bit foreign for students coming from California and New York, like one of you said earlier. So it's just sort of an adventure for everybody to learn. Dawson, did you have anything to add to that?
I kind of like Eric's point about people smiling at each other when walking by. That's a really pleasant experience. We should really do that more at home. And yeah, I kind of feel like some people here speak very fast, but you don't really need to keep up with them. Just find your own pace of speaking in English. That's good. That's okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that. There is something about finding your own pace in a lot of the life, right? Like just you're coming in as yourself and you will be influenced by the people around you, but finding your own pace. It has been interesting to be masked for the last 9 months because that cultural norm of smiling at everybody, it's much more difficult to have that experience with the mask on. So if you don't experience that when you first arrive this February, you'll definitely have that experience when you come back in August. So it's good to be reminded that the culture you're entering in February may shift slightly as we move out of the global health crisis. So that's really good. I'm curious if you could talk about a little bit what was surprising about academic culture, about the classroom, about your professor engagement, about a syllabus, about the first week of classes. What was surprising or might be helpful for our new students to hear about?
Office hours, office hours, office hours. I'm repeating that 3 times because I think I just benefited so much from office hours in my first semester at Notre Dame, or like throughout my 2 years at Notre Dame now. It's surprising like to me how open all the professors are to getting to know you beyond students, but like really just trying to getting to know you as a person and how they can best help you in any sort of way. And because I'm a German major, I became really good friends with my German professor. We would hang out sometimes, after classes and just sitting on a bench and like just talk random stuff about German culture, or like anything general about my life, and asking her for advice. So I would say just really using that resource. Sometimes you're in a really huge lecture hall, like with another 80 students together in a class, but just kind of try to go to their office hours and like get to know your professor and like get your name out there, like make your professor know, oh, okay, I know Kaylee, she went to my office hour every week. Like try to establish an impression like that. I think will be really, really helpful for you, especially considering, going forward, you guys might need to apply for different kinds of programs and study abroads and like, I don't know, grad schools. You all need like, recommendation letters from your professors and so building that kind of connections and connecting with those professors in the first place would help you, for whatever programs you apply for in the future. So yeah, please go to office hours, use the resources.
Kaylee, can you tell us some of the questions that you've talked about or asked at the office hours? Like when you showed up the first time, why did you show up at the professor's office hours? And were some of those virtual in the fall so that you had to make an adjustment to doing that virtually?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question, Leah. So originally, like when I first came on campus, COVID wasn't there. So it was like in person. And the kind of questions I asked was just mainly related to class. Things I didn't understand, like assignments and problem sets. But as I came more and more often, you would have the chance to kind of make small talks with the professor too. So it's really exciting to share, why you're passionate in the class you're taking. Just kind of try to familiarize yourself with the professor and explain, okay, why you took, their class in the beginning, and how are you feeling about the class so far? Like giving the feedback like that, and then you can also like ask advice. For example, if you're taking econ class, like I did, you can like ask, okay, what are some career paths, for an econ major? Ask something like that, because like you can never imagine how many connections those professors have. They have taught so many students. Many of them are very successful at their career, so they might be able to like set you up with someone. So yeah, that's something good to ask. And kind of the difference there between virtual and in person, I would just say it's so much more convenient and easier. There's like no, I would say there's literally no difference in terms of how you interact with your professor. You just need to like hop on the Zoom call and like just like turn on your camera and just talk like you normally do. And you don't need to like walk there, so you save a lot of time. So there's no like literally, except for some technology glitches. So like make sure you're like on a stable Wi-Fi connection. That's that's all I have. Yeah.
Good, thanks. Erica or Dawson?
Yeah, I can go next. Yeah, office hour and having just personal relationship with your professor really helps, because even it'll be more easier to like understand any assignments, or for you like it might be more interesting to just go into class because you're the professor and you feel like it's like like class itself is interaction. But if you can't make time during the professor's office hours, emails are always like really good option, and also like virtual calls. And sometimes it really, and then other than office hours, it really helps to actually read syllabus, because there are a lot of information in the syllabus, including when it's office hours, and you can see their characteristics, or like you can see their style on the syllabus. So maybe they will happy to drop your lowest score, like lowest like grade in the midterm. Like those are the really helpful but little tips that they wouldn't necessarily talk to you, but it was already there. So you can actually, it really helps to like really study your syllabus in the first few weeks of your classes.
And it seems like that might be helpful too, so that you, when you go to the professor with your question, they don't say it's on the syllabus. And
Right.
You don't want that to be your first interaction with them. You want them to know that you've done the work and you are now ready for the next step in that relationship. So good. Dawson, how about you?
Yeah, syllabus and office hours are really important. And another thing I want to add is like for syllabus, you can also use it for when you choose your classes, when you choose what classes to take. You should always ask an upperclassman or a friend who has taken the class to send you the syllabus, and you can look at it to see if you are into this class or not. And also, I think it's quite important you approach other people, maybe our IAs and basically anyone who has idea about different classes, to get some suggestions, and also your first year advisor. And yeah, so just ask people during your class choices.
Very good. I think I've heard from students previously too, that when you're in the classroom, and this might be different over Zoom, but that the interactions between students and professors are much more frequent, and there's a lot more kickback from students, or a lot more engagement, lots more questions in the class itself. And then just to feel like if you practice that in your first semester, you get used to asking questions, to participating in those large group discussions, it gets easier and easier the longer that you're a student. So I don't know if you guys have had experiences with that, of being in the classroom, interacting with students. Has that changed in the virtual environment, or has it felt the expectations are still the same?
I think I can jump in here. Nobody wants to. The expectations as for academic standard is definitely the same because the class is the same. It's just kind of virtual format. For me, I actually love the virtual formatting of classes, especially for classes like where I need to like talk a lot. I mean, in class, for example, like in the past semester, I took a class. That's a requirement for people who are in arts and letters. That's called CSEM, so college seminar. So it's like an oral class that helps you with your presentational skills and things like that. So like on the Zoom, like on the Zoom calls, I feel like it's definitely easier to just unmute yourself and like jump out like and interject others faster compared to like in a real person classroom, you would sometimes hesitate to raise your hands, and sometimes even if you raise your hands, you would have to wait until the professor calls on you. So for me, it's definitely much more easier, and I love the way that my class was conducted because everyone, has the same chance to kind of jump in anytime they wanted. And yeah, definitely love the experience.
Good, that's good. So to pivot to a question outside of the classroom, how have you guys gotten involved in community? What kinds of clubs did you join? I know one of you said at the very beginning, just connect with as many people as possible. And I've heard that same advice for clubs. Do not limit yourself to what you think you're interested in. Try lots of different activities and events and participate in all sorts of things so that you can find what's interesting. But I'm curious what you three have participated in. What's been exciting? Was there a club or activity that you got involved in and you were surprised how much you liked it? Go ahead and jump on that question.
Yeah, it's definitely for me. Yeah, there will be club fair. I think there will be also a club fair for fall semester, maybe, or like winter, like spring semester. But definitely sign up for like many clubs as you can, as many clubs you can, because you don't have to. You don't really necessarily have to participate in everything, but it's important to have like connection so that at some point if you need or if you want to like join a club, then you would know how to join or like you would know how to start. But personally, I really love sports. I really like physical activity. So I got most of my dorm friends and during orientation week and like welcome weekend when we were playing sand volleyball in front of our door. So, we just like took out like volleyball and we just like asked everyone, hey, do you know how to play volleyball? Do you want to play? But if you can't do that, there are a lot of intramural sports in this semester. I guess there is still inter-hall semester, even though they're only you might only compete within your dome, like within your residence hall. But there is still inter-hall sports that is a great opportunity to know upperclassmen in your hall or just the different friends in your dorm. And also there is a workout classes and like physical workout classes. Sometimes you can start up like really small talk because everyone's physically challenging each other, and you can share those pain during class. And sometimes it's like lubricant can be like lubricant. It's like more easier to like reach out to people.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks, Erica. Kaylee or Dawson, what have you guys been involved in?
I like you said, Leah, I signed up for like so many club emails during like the club fair in the first semester, which I do not regret at all, even though like some of them I just kind of stopped committing to them and like kind of asked to be removed from the list. I still don't regret. I think you still know you still like start your connections, as Erica said, by participating in the events that the club hosts. So for me personally, I'm involved with SIBC, which is I think you guys might not know it, but it's the most popular club on campus. I would say they have like the most members out of all the clubs on campus. It's a student business club where you can do projects within different divisions. And then Unleashed Social Ventures is another club I participate in. So in that club, you would be joining a project where you would work with a venture capital to like kind of research and kind of decide on an investment kind of opportunity. And I also write for the school newspaper, The Observer, and school magazine, Scholastic. So it's actually been really fun for me to interview people, including professors, alums, and sometimes off-campus South Bend residents as well. So it's been really exciting to get to know them and writing for both of the school press. And I also dance in Troop ND, which is a hip hop and jazz dance club on campus. But for those of you who are just beginners for dance, don't worry, there's plenty of options for you. We have in total, I think, around 4 dance clubs on campus, and only 2 of them require tryouts. So the 2 of them that require tryouts is the club I'm in, which is Troop ND, and the other Dance Company, which I think they're like more like ballet oriented. But for the other 2, you can join, even though you're like just beginner, just start walking up to them and say, hey, I'm interested in taking your class. Like, can I come? Can I join? They're so open, and yeah, don't be afraid to just reach out. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Very cool. Thanks, Kaylee. Justin, what about you? What clubs are you involved in or activities?
Yeah, for me, the clubs, I sign up for a lot of clubs, and they are like just the infinite resource of interesting things. Yeah. I'm also involved with the SIBC, and I also join more fun clubs. I mean, SIBC is quite academic. And I'm involved with the Dago Club, which is basically we just gather around and build Dago Star Wars, Disney castles, that kind of thing. It's a very relaxing experience. And I'm also involved with the Math Club, and they offer free pizza every time we meet.
Nice.
You can skip dinner and go to the club. That's a great thing to do. Yeah, and I'm also with the classical music club. We don't gather around much often this time, but usually we listen to a lot of interesting classical music and we share this common interest. It's a great experience too. So my suggestion is just join whatever club you find interesting. You are not committing to anything, so you are just adding new resources to your email list, basically.
Yeah. And that's new students, as you're coming in, you may have already gone to the resource fair last fall and gotten a sense of the clubs, but there's more than 500 student clubs on campus, which is an extraordinary number of clubs for the student population that we have. And they range from a Lego club to classical music to SIBC, very formal, the athletics, the inner hall. There's just so many activities to engage in. There's groups associated with majors, with colleges, with your hall. There's just so many places to get connected. And again and again, we hear students say, just show up, just pop in. If it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. You have not lost anything by trying it out. And you may discover something new. I think students often cite Frisbee golf or ultimate Frisbee is something they never had heard of. And then they show up on campus. It's incredibly popular. And that was the exact right activity for them, even though they had never heard about it before getting on campus. And I'll say, Erica, I love your example of playing sand volleyball, because for me, one of the signs of spring is when students start going out and playing sand volleyball again, and the snow is gone, and there's a number of courts right around where my office is. So I always get excited to see students back out outside doing that. So in the last 5 or 6 minutes before we open it for questions, I'd love to hear your recommendations for what students should bring. What is something that you brought from home that you were so glad you brought? What is something you brought that you were like, oh my gosh, I did not have to waste space in my luggage for this item. There was plenty in South Bend. Are there things that have helped you get through the winter and enjoy winter in addition to an umbrella? What are the things you would have recommended? Because all of our students that are on the call are working to get here by February 3rd. So they're packing, they're planning, they're getting ready. Yesterday, we talked a lot about the documents that they need to get here and to come through the port of entry. But what are some other things that just helped you feel like you were at home? Some things that you were able to wait until you get to campus to get?
I would definitely say, for me, I'm still packing too. I'm in the same as everyone here. I'm starting to pack, and like every single time I pack, it's a new journey for me. It's definitely a new journey for me. It never gets old. But but definitely, I would say you would definitely have some comfort food, that's more home based, or you think you might not be able to find in the States, and it will you would definitely need your comfort food, your own comfort food at some point. For me, I thought, okay, maybe I can get instant noodles from here, but there are a lot of options. Like they have Korean Mart here, and they deliver, they deliver. But however, there are some pieces, like there are some food options that really gets me sometimes, but it doesn't sell, and you can't really get in the States. So just go through Amazon, or go through your there might be some local store, local, like those like Asian shop, or other food shop that you can, like around the campus. You just have to search it, and then if they don't have one, then you might want to consider, okay, which form I can bring some of the food that you would need when you're having a hard time, or like you feel like you don't want any more American food, or your school cafeteria, like just like dining hall food. And sometimes I don't regret is sometimes like long coats, like if you are living in a places that you can't really find like really thick jacket, long jacket, sometimes it'll be nicer to just buy it here, because they have a lot of options here because everyone needs it. And if you don't have really good options around you, depending on where you are, or depending like on which weather is there, you don't have to sweat it. Like most of the products will be here, and it might be more cheaper here.
And I'll say most of you, if you're coming at the beginning of February, almost everything will be on sale because the stores are starting to sell spring things. So you could still get a good coat, and it might even be cheaper. Kaylee, how about you? Something you brought, something you wish you had brought?
Yeah, Erica talked about what to bring. I will talk a little bit about what not to bring. For me, I definitely overpacked a little bit. So I would say number one, things not to pack too much is like stationery, like pens, pencils, notebooks. First of all, you would find them at what's the store at next to Starbucks called? Oh my God, I have bad memory. What's the name again?
The Hans Bookstore?
No, like next to
Huddle,
Starbucks.
Huddle, is that Huddle?
Yeah.
Oh, the
Huddle.
Huddle. Right. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. How can I forget about Huddle? Okay, yeah. Like you can find most of them at Huddle. And it's like really cheap, and you can just kind of like buy it like using your student account, like student money. And then second of all, what not to bring is t-shirts and like too much summer clothing, I would say, because sometimes, strange enough, school will kind of give you t-shirts for free. For example, I've got t-shirts from student government, and then for like some of the seminars you participate, they will give you t-shirts for free. And then second of all, I would say sweatshirts, because sometimes dorms would have those kind of sweatshirts that you can get from your dorm. So like I think those are definitely better than like what you bring, because those are like more meaningful and like school representation, stuff like that. So yeah, don't overpack like clothes, because like Erica said, you can get most of them here at a cheaper price, and also sometimes school give you stuff for free. So yeah, those are two things that I think not to overpack. Yeah.
Kaylee, your comment about the teachers reminds me that students are often surprised by how much Notre Dame clothing people wear on campus. And so if you're walking down the hall, you might pass 10 people and 8 of them are wearing a Notre Dame shirt or sweatshirt or jacket or hat of some kind. And that's often surprising for students, is how much you can rely on the Notre Dame brand to clothe you. And like Kaylee said, a lot of that can end up being free. So Dawson, how about you?
Yeah, the way I think about before I pack is basically what do the Americans do, basically. For example, when I think about packing clothes, I ask myself, do the Americans wear clothes? And of course they do. So that's why that's a reason not to bring too many clothes. So I actually like this way of thinking. You can try it yourself. And I do agree with the point on comfort food. That is so important for me, at least, especially when since we've been here for like more than a year or something. Yeah. And it's really nice to have something that reminds you of your hometown. Or maybe you can bring your favorite book, that's something you just like to read during your free time, things like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Amazon is certainly helpful for getting things here, but it may not be quite the same. And so thinking about the treats that'll make your time special is nothing ever tastes quite the same away from home. So bring it with you for sure. So I am going to ask you guys a final question, but if any of the new students on the call have a specific question that you want to ask, we go ahead and just turn on your video and unmute yourself, or we can do that, I guess. But if you have a question, go ahead and ask. And while you're thinking through that, I'll just ask our panelists, is there a question you wish I'd asked you or something you definitely want to say to new students, recommendation, encouragement, something that you learned that you always want to share with new students, anything final that I didn't ask the question, but you definitely want to say it. And then for the rest of our students, if you have a question, by all means, go ahead and ask it. You can raise your hand too, I think. Anything more? Final thoughts about your time, about getting to campus, being on campus the first couple of days? Any advice you wish you had gotten? And if there's none, if you feel like you've said all there is to say, that is also fine.
Oh, just one thing more about winter clothing. Sometimes it might be really important to have snow boots, but you definitely don't need to bring your snow boots if you have really decent one, because there will be more options here, online and offline. And you might want to see what people wear first, then buying something. Like even with like clothing and then like for different things, if it's not like urgent and then you can't live like one day without it, like it's not that kind of stuff, you may want to wait out to see what people do before you actually purchase them.
Oh, that's a good idea. Anything else?
Oh, I would just say one more thing too. This is like kind of embarrassing, but I gained a lot of weight during my freshman year. So freshman 15 is no joke. So for those of you who are bringing your comfort food, like Erica recommended, I would recommend you to work out during winter, because like during winter everyone is kind of lazy and like they don't want to move, they just want to stay inside, having the warm AC on. But like try to stay active and like even though not staying volleyball during the snow, but like I would say like work out on your own, your dorm, kind of try to do something and try to use the resources at Duncan. Is that called Smith's Recreational Center? Yeah, I think so. I'm forgetting all the names. Yeah, so like at Smith Center they have those kind of freebies, online courses on, I don't know, like fitness workout and stuff. So like try to like sign up for those and follow the instructors on Zoom and do it on your own so that you can stay fit and healthy.
And then on top of that, I think that like one thing that's also important is like mental health for like students, not for like international students, for everyone, because winter and having like a lot of like cloud, like having perma cloud on the on the sky for like prolonged days might actually depress you. You might feel like a little bit depressed, or you might feel a little bit like low for more days. So it might be easier, or it might be like really important to bring something that you really like. It doesn't have to be workout. It doesn't like always have to like work out and being really active. Something like you really enjoy. Maybe you like drawing, then maybe you should consider like to bring your drawing supplies or like coloring books or like anything that can really boost your like mind or boost your like mood for the day, because it might be depressing sometimes, and like not having like enough sunlight, it might really like affect your mood for the day.
Yeah, that's true. All of you will learn the expression permacloud when you get here, which is just means it's pretty gray in the winter and sunny days are an absolute delight. I'm looking at the call and many of you are coming from very sunny locations, and there can be something very cozy about the gray, but you'll become familiar with the language of the permacloud in the winter. So. Well, I don't see any questions from any of the students. So I want to thank you guys so much. Unless you have any final thoughts, Dawson, not to cut you off, but any final thoughts? We are really excited to welcome you all to campus, and we know we'll have a few other sessions. Hopefully you are connecting with your international ambassador later this week, and then you'll connect again when you arrive in the first week of February. Please feel free to reach out, ask questions. Connect with your international ambassador, set up a special time just to talk if you're nervous about what you're bringing or have specific questions. Maybe you didn't even think about bringing snow boots and now you realize there's one more thing you need to think about. But you're going to have a wonderful time, and the students on this panel are really committed to helping ensure that. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, panelists. Really lovely thoughts and recommendations. And we will see you all very soon.
Thanks, Leah.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.